Alrighty. Hey. Thanks again for pressing play. Welcome once again to another edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast. I'm wearing the old Solar Report podcast t-shirt. Remember these days? How many of you have been around since the Solar Report days? It's 5 years ago. 5 years ago, Matthew and I started the podcast, and we called ourselves the Solar Report. Not really known at the time that the Solar Panel podcast was a thing. Of all the fucking names, we picked one of like the three at the time podcasts, right? It was the Solar Panel, Fanning the Flames, and the Timeline Pod. Those are primarily the three podcasts. And we made our fourth one. We called ourselves the Solar Report. And we joined Brightside. We became the Suns Report for like 3 weeks, and then the Suns Jam Session podcast, which stands for John and Matthew. Suns Jam. And tonight it's going to be the Suns John podcast because Matthew's out sick tonight. I was out sick yesterday, had a little bit of a cold, really something going on in my head. And it was nice to kind of sit back and just watch a Suns game when they played the Jazz yesterday, knowing that I didn't have to talk about it. I could just kind of sit back and relax with the head throbbing thing going on. But Matthew now is sick, and it's going to be me rolling solo tonight. So I hope that you can enjoy the podcast just the same, but it should be a fun one, obviously, because the Phoenix Suns won. That always helps our joy, if you will, but also because it gives me an opportunity to take a look at the chat and see what you guys are saying, and then we can have some conversations about that. Like, Joel Ramirez right off the bat. It's insane how a rookie undersized center is our best option at center. Suns front office should be embarrassed. Richards trade needs to happen ASAP. Love that comment. Definitely something I want to get into amidst the rumors for the Suns potentially trading for Nick Richards and hopefully sending Yusuf Nurkic packing as a part of the process. A true win-win, even though Nick Richards has his deficiencies. His upside's a lot better than Nurkic's. So we're going to talk about that and much more on this edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast. So make sure you subscribe, rate, review, hit the thumbs up button, put a little effort in, man. Just give it a little click ski. And it's your way of supporting our podcast and everything that Matthew and I do on a nightly basis. My name again, John Boyd, managing editor, Bright Side of the Sun. Pop them if you got them, Suns fans. I'm just sticking with the Diet Dr. Pepper tonight. Okay, it's Monday tomorrow. I got to work. So I'm going to have some DDP, and let's talk about a Suns win over the Hornets. Phoenix Suns win against Horny Hornets tonight, a team that did give them a challenge last week. We lost to the Hornets on the second night of a back-to-back earlier this week, last Tuesday, in fact. And same thing, we play them again on the second night of a back-to-back tonight. But this time, Phoenix walks away victorious with a 120-113 victory, something that did seem in doubt kind of throughout the game. It was, again, when you play a team like them Honey Hornets, one of the challenges is the fact that they are a young, youthful team. They have those legs, they have that spunk, and it's something that is a challenge for Phoenix. Good, bad, or indifferent. That's where we live. Is in the world of, we're the oldest team in the NBA. And so because of that, when you play teams like the Hornets, it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge because they can run you off the court, because they can stay energized and bring the energy throughout the totality of the game. And again, it's something that, the Suns had an issue with earlier this week when they played against the Hornets, and something that potentially, it looked like that was going to happen again tonight. But ultimately, the Suns come through with a stellar fourth quarter. They gave up just 15 points in the fourth quarter to get a 7-point victory. They scored 27 themselves, but they held on and they won this game, which again is something that is definitely Much needed for Phoenix because, we know what this is right now. We know that this is a team that has struggled and now with this win has won 3 consecutive games and is back to 500. Back to 500, baby. I never thought we'd get there, but it's a fact. The Suns are a 500 team, and they're doing what they should be doing. They're winning games against teams that are not good. That's been the challenge with this Suns team. That's been the frustration I feel like throughout this season is not only is the vision not clicking, but there's a lack of effort and intensity against teams that you should, quote unquote, beat. The Charlotte Hornets is one of those teams. The Charlotte Hornets, as I mentioned the last time we played them, which, by the way, is the last time that the Charlotte Hornets played themselves, right? They played against the Suns on Tuesday, and then they were scheduled to go to LA. And then obviously with everything that's going on in LA relative to the fires, which is actually kind of in my old hometown. For those of you who don't know, I was born in Phoenix, lived here until I was 3, and then moved to LA and lived in the San Fernando Valley and parts of Ventura County for 9 years. And, a lot of the areas that I'm very familiar with, are no longer there. Insane how it's actually everything that's gone on there. But part of that is the Hornets. Their games were canceled, so they've had plenty of rest. The Suns obviously played yesterday, so again, the scheduling gods just like, even amidst a run where we're playing shit competition, we still have a bad hand kind of dealt to us, and that's just kind of. Every fan base can look at a schedule and look at the plights of their team and find frustrations and things that are ways to find either excuses or justifications for the lack of ability to be a winning team. And if we had lost tonight, that's kind of where we would probably point is this team was more athletic. This team was more locked in. This team had more rest. We were on the second night of back-to-back. Again, just one of those things. But the Suns came through. The Suns came through. And I like what Creepy Crawly says from the Aussie Suns Fans podcast. If you guys haven't checked out that podcast once a week, every Saturday, typically, you can check out what those guys do over there. A great job, great conversation for Suns fans over there. And Creepy Crawly says in the chat, not winning by enough, but baby steps. And man, I feel that. I feel that in my soul. Like they should be crushing teams. They should have crushed Utah last night. Now, granted, they won. That game was in hand for the most part, but they didn't crush them. And like, that's where we want. We want a team when we play these shit teams to crush them. And this one, we had to fight back the entire game. And part of that's because the Suns defensively just have some challenges, don't they? For reasons I stated, but at the same time, challenges nonetheless. They gave up 34 points in the first quarter. They gave up 36 points in the third quarter. That is the 61st time that the Suns have permitted 30-plus points in a single quarter to the opposing team. Now, I know what you're asking yourself. You're like, okay, 61 times. How many times have we scored 30-plus points in a quarter? Well, the Suns tonight, 34 in the second, 31 in the third. That makes a grand total of 54 for Phoenix. So there's 7 more quarters where we've permitted 30 points than we've actually scored 30 points. Now, obviously, there's a lot of extenuating factors. I don't even know if extenuating is a word. I just kind of stumbled through that. So Dr. Peppers. But it's not a 1-for-1, right? It's not like, well, every time we score 30 points, they score 30 points. It's give and take. The Suns have played approximately 164 quarters, I believe. So it's about 40% of the time we're permitting them and about 35% of the time we're scoring them is where the math works out. But that's why the Suns had to dig themselves out of a hole. And they had to dig themselves out of a hole for one primary reason. Plain and simple. Their lack of interior size and presence. Their lack of interior size and presence. Now, they won the game. They ultimately won. And there's one reason why they won. And so says Jay is right in the chat. Fan of the Flames. Shout out to him. Sage. For those of you who don't know, So Says Jay has brought Sage into the Footprint Center. And ever since he's done it, the Suns are 3-0. Just saying. I don't know if he's tucked it under his seat or where he put it. I told him to try to get close to Kevin Durant, shove that sage up his ass and see if he could block it like he blocks me on Twitter, but I don't think he got that close. But it comes down to the lack of the interior. And it's something that Matthew and I have talked about multiple times on this podcast about how there's a challenge on the interior and how, although it might not be the move that wins us a championship, it's at least going to allow our team to be more competent and function better as a team. Mason Plumlee gets the start again tonight. Obviously, it's been, a few games. I think this is the fourth game since Yusuf Nurkic went to the bench, and the third consecutive game which he did not play because he was ill tonight. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But when you have Mason Plumlee as your starting center, you're sacrificing a ton. Mason Plumlee ended 1 of 4 from the field in 15 minutes played. He had 2 points. He had 5 rebounds because he was getting absolutely destroyed on the interior by Mark Williams. 9 of 12 for Mark Williams on the Hornets. He had 24 points and 16 rebounds. 24 and 16. Now, what's interesting is at the half, he had 22 and 13. So in the second half, Mark Williams, who was destroying Phoenix, 2 points, 3 total rebounds in the second half. Strange how they didn't continue to just go with what works, smash the interior. But part of that is because the Suns made an adjustment, and despite him being more undersized, they played more Oso Ighodaro.
You know what I'm talking about.
Oso Ighodaro. Yeah, Oso Ighodaro looked fantastic. Had 2 huge buckets in the last, 2 minutes of the game, where when double teams were being thrown at Kevin Durant, they found or Devin Booker, they found Oso Ighodaro rolling to the basket or currently camped underneath the basket, and he burned them. Easy, rolling, running dunks, easy high percentage shots for him. But it's definitely something that I wrote about it for Bright Side of the Sun. How why not start him? I get that you're undersized, but he is skilled. So when you have Mason Plumlee, you have size. It's not great size, but you're clearly underskilled. And at least with Oso, you have some skill. And I think that is something that is much needed for this team. And Matt McMillan, Plumlee's energy just doesn't match Iguodaro's youth. Hard to watch that first half. 100%. We were all saying it. I mean, it was just seeing Mark Williams look like fucking prime Shaquille O'Neal is it's embarrassing, for the Phoenix Suns, because obviously everything that they have invested in this franchise and in this roster, to have somebody simply just unlock the opposing team by just, we're just going to pound the interior. We're going to own the rebounding battle. Second chance points, 26-12 in favor of Charlotte. Total rebounds, offensive rebounds, 15-8 in favor of Charlotte. Second chance points, 26-12, as I said. And it's so funny how if it seemed like the Suns, if they did finally get a rebound, they turn it right over. And it's just to see what Oso Ighodaro can do. It gives you more skill on the floor. And I think with the Bradley Beals and the Devin Bookers and the Kevin Durant, it's worth potentially giving a shot to. But that being said, Mason Plumlee, ever since he's gone to the starting lineup, the Suns are 4-1. So bringing Oso in is working. The rotations currently are working. And the athleticism and ability to get blocks, as Blaze Megatron notes in the chat, is something that Coach Budenholzer can rotate in and has rotated in effectively enough to win games. Speaking of Coach Bud, man.
Play fast, play random, play together, play in great space. Let's go play some basketball, have some fun.
Budenholzer, Budenholzer,
Mike Budenholzer's got to stop with these first half fucking challenges. Like, it's just got to stop. Like, his head, every time it's the first half and he thinks he should challenge it, and one of his players is spinning their finger like they're spinning a plate, like Red Panda, and he looks over to his coaching staff. They should just go, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Because it potentially cost the game at a high momentum time in the game when the Suns were down a possession and they had an opportunity, if they had a challenge, to get the ball back because it was clearly off a Charlotte Hornets knee. They didn't have any challenges because he did some. It's like 3 consecutive games he's done out there, and I don't understand the why. Unless it's unbelievably definitive, and all 3 of his last first half challenges haven't been all like definitive. It's something I noticed in the Utah game where he gambled early, really early, and it paid off for him. Like, he won it, but you don't gamble that early. It's like, come on, man. That's why. What's the why there, bud? I hope somebody asks him that tonight in the post game. Looking at some other things, what's the point of having this guy on your roster?
Sha-la-la-la-la-la-la. Mr. Jones and me.
Tyus Jones has had a total of 3 points in the last 2 games. Tonight, 18 minutes played, 1 of 5 from the field, that one being a 3-pointer. Had 5 assists, couple turnovers, but he's just out there. And I mean, I guess a veteran minimum contract. I'd rather have him, not need him, than need him, not have him. Like, because we needed him and didn't have him last year, right? Like, his archetype as a player. We didn't have that last year. But I don't see the Suns utilizing him. And something Matthew and I talked about a couple podcasts ago, how he's like 9th on the roster in usage percentage at like 15%. And I'm sure that number has gone down since we last spoke about that a couple games ago, because again, he just hasn't had the ball in his hand. He's not generating any gravity. He's not facilitating plays that lead to open shots for Booker or Kevin Durant consistently. That's where we could use him. I think that when this team struggles, sometimes they lean heavily into isolation ball, as most teams do. Give it to Kevin Durant, let him cook. Give it to Booker, let him cook. But you can still set up a proper set, I feel, to put them in a position that's going to give them the best look possible. Because at the end of every day and the end of every possession, that's the end goal, right? Take the best shot possible, the most high percentage shot, based on how you can set up a play and navigate and execute that play against the defense. And with Tyus Jones, he's just there. And I know that this is very reactionary. I know that if you look at the totality of the season, he's definitely made an impact in a positive manner. But it just seems like as of late, with this change to having Bradley Beal come in and be the guy who's first off the bench. I think he came in with 9 minutes today. But you take a look at kind of the rotational patterns for the Phoenix Suns since Bradley Beal came in or started coming in off the bench. And I'm pulling up a chart for those who are listening. And Tyus Jones typically goes out with about 4 minutes left in each quarter, and Bradley Beal's already in at that point. He gets a good rest, and his next rest is about 4 minutes left in the third till about 4 minutes left in the fourth. Then he comes in for a little bit of the fourth, but doesn't play in the closeout minutes. And that's why I've always said it's not about whether you start or not. It's about whether or not you finish. And the Suns are utilizing Tyus to start both the first and second half. He gets some play at the back end of the first half and a little bit in the fourth quarter, and that's kind of it. And that's the rotation pattern that Mike Budenholzer has put together since Bradley Beal has gone to the bench. So it's just interesting. Just kind of throwing it out there. They're obviously working it out, and it's working in their favor. Again, I understand that this is against subpar competition, but the goal is to win games, and right now those rotation patterns are winning games. And when the time is right, Tyus Jones potentially could step up and step in to assist this team in getting victories. He'll have his games. So Another issue, and this is obviously tonight, and the same thing happened against Charlotte. When you play against LaMelo Ball, who's a 6'7" point guard, like Tyus can't guard him, and that's the limitations of his physical abilities, right? Like he can't guard LaMelo Ball, so that's why we saw him. I don't think he played in the fourth quarter at all when we played the Charlotte Hornets on Tuesday, and tonight didn't get much run either. You look at his fourth quarter performance. Tyus Jones got a grand total of 3 minutes played. So 0 of 1 for the field. And, that's where he had 2 turnovers. His 2 turnovers happened in that fourth quarter. So went away from him, went back to the rookies. Both Ryan Dunn and Oso Ighodaro were substituted in, and the Suns ultimately pulled out the victory. Looking at some of the big guns in this one, let's start with this game.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Big Dick Booker.
All right, we got a 30 spot for Devin Booker. The person who's been benefiting the most since Bradley Beal went to the bench, in my opinion, is Devin Booker. And he's proving that night in and night out. Because before, as I mentioned so many times, and I understood people's arguments relative to, well, you can't have Bradley Beal come off the bench because he just makes too much money. I'm like, yeah, but every time Devin Booker and Bradley Beal are on the court at the same time, somebody's playing out of position. And don't get me wrong, like they are still playing plenty of minutes together. It's not like all of a sudden Bradley Beal went to the bench and neither Beal nor Booker are spending any time together. Right? I mean, you take a look, gosh, when did this happen? Was it last Monday was the first game in which Beal made the jump to the bench. You look at since last Monday, 5 games have been played. Is that right? Yeah, 4-1. 5 games have been played. Devin Booker and Bradley Beal have still spent 112 minutes on the court at the same time. And so, again, whenever that happens, one of the two is playing out of position. But in that time, the team overall is a plus 14. The team overall in that 112 minutes has made 277 points. So mathematically speaking, that's 2.47 points per minute. That's damn good. I'll take that. Field goal percentage, the team is 52.8%. 3-point percentage, the team is 42.3%. 74 assists, 30 turnovers. So just over like a 2 plus to 1 assist to turnover ratio. But the key here is the fact that Devin Booker has been playing much better. He's getting off to that jump start that he's had kind of a challenge with thus far this season. And I mean, I talked about this last year where it's like, he doesn't know if he needs to facilitate or pass. And he said it the other day. He goes, sometimes I'll miss a couple shots. And then I look over and like, there's Bradley Beal and there's Kevin Durant. So I figure I might as well just like pass it over to them. In the last 5 games, Devin Booker's averaging 7 points per first quarter. In the past 4 games, Devin Booker is leading the team with 26.6 points per game. 47% from the field. That 31% from 3-point range is atrocious, especially because I think he had the 0 of 8 2 games ago against the Hawks, and that really hurts that percentage. But he's more in his defined role, and like that's the goal of having this Bradley Beal thing. It's not for the entire game, have him play in that role, but at least get started. But Booker, you're the guy. Here's the flag. Go run with it for a while. Tag, you're it. And then he can pass it off to Beal. And the whole while, you have Kevin Durant executing.
Who the heck are you?
I'm Kevin Durant. You know who I am. Y'all know who I am.
Did anybody see a sniper? Did anybody see anything?
I'm one of the best players to ever play the game.
Easy money sniper, and this one had 27 points. So Booker plus sniper equals 57 points. 11 of 24 from the field. A rough night shooting from beyond the arc. 2 of 9. 22% for him, but he had 8 rebounds. He had 5 assists, 1 steal, just the 1 turnover for KD, a +8 overall. A really solid game by Kevin Durant, doing what he wants to do best. And where you're going to get the best version of him is, again, when Booker's playing up to his potential, being the best Robin he can be, Batman can be highly effective. And that's what Batman was tonight. Kevin Durant, that 27 points, especially during that run in the fourth quarter, where there were some tough buckets that need to be gotten, and got them, was Kevin Durant, who in the fourth, 8 points on 4 of 9 shooting, 0 of 3 from beyond the arc, but a couple rebounds, a couple assists, a +12 in that fourth quarter. And he played the entire fourth quarter. That's also valuable. And it's the vision of the Suns. And again, I'm like, I'll keep going back to what I'm saying. Like, I know this is a bad team we're playing, so you always take that into context. But the vision of what the Suns are and what the Suns should be is just that, where you have Bradley scoring over here and you got Booker scoring over here. And then KD can get his, because the defenses have to be aware. And then when the doubles were coming on KD, as I mentioned earlier, like, he had a great pass down to Oso Ighodaro, who scored. And, that was a key basket in the game. And it came off the gravity of Kevin Durant. But the key to all this, in my opinion, the key to all of this for the Phoenix Suns was in the fourth quarter, they were moving the fucking ball. There was some isolation setup, but out of those ISOs, they moved the ball. The Royce O'Neal 3, that was probably the biggest shot of the game, because that's the one that put us up 5, right? There's 3 passes before that out of an isolation set. The Suns had 10 made field goals in the fourth quarter. They were 10 of 20 from the field and 2 of 9 from beyond the arc. But of those 10 made field goals, 7 were off of assists. And that's the story of productive basketball. That's the story of the Phoenix Suns. When they're playing well, like most teams, they have the ability to pass the ball around, to set each other up, and to score. There's basketball movement. Overall tonight, 31 assists for Phoenix. It's just the ninth time they've had 31 or more. It's the 13th time they've had 30 or more assists in a game. And so when you look at the challenges that they faced on the interior, with Mark Williams destroying them on the interior, it was their ability to move the ball, to get open looks, and to execute that won them the game. And you couple that with the Hornets getting in their own way a little bit, because you got LaMelo Ball on the other side. And there's a lot of LaMelo Ball's kind of a fun one. He's a fun one because some people can't stand him. Some people enjoy his style and brand of play. And some people think he's the ugliest person in the NBA, and I'm that guy. I think that's an ugly fucking dude, man. Oh, man. He's just, I remember I saw LaMelo Ball when he was like 14 or 15 years old. And I was walking through, the Footprint Center. It was during a Suns game, and he was there. He was walking around with a buddy or something, and I was like, whoa, what the fuck was that? Oh, there's LaMelo Ball. But he's got, he's your modern play. He's like a Trae Young, right? And, he's part of that group of players who are the Steph Curry generation, right? Kobe was a Jordan guy. He grew up watching Jordan, and you had a bunch of guys, the Dwayne Wades of the world, and everyone in that kind of sect for about 15 years who loved Jordan and tried to emulate his game. And now you are seeing an influx of players who grew up watching Steph Curry. Now the challenge is it's really hard to be Jordan, and it's really hard to be Steph Curry. So there's not a ton of them in the league, but Trae Young is one, and we watched him a couple nights ago. And LaMelo Ball we saw twice in the past week, and he likes to take those 31-footers. He likes, doing the 3 and, doing all the stuff. But the issue that he had is at the end of the game when they needed him to just run a set. He's a great playmaker. Like, I do enjoy watching the playmaking aspects of his game. Although, and I love that they called a travel on him late in the game. He does this thing where, like, he goes 1-2 and he jumps, and then, like, he passes it as his foot is hitting the ground. And it happened. I noticed it in the game on Tuesday about 3 times. It happened 3 times tonight, and they finally called it on the last one. They're like, that's a travel. It's like 1-2, jump in the air like you're going to pass it. Wait till you hit the ground, and then you're passing. I'm like, that's a travel. And they finally called him on it. But when they needed him to just run a simple set, he had to launch like a 33-footer. Like, he wants the highlight. And that's one of the challenges with the young generation of players is because they've grown up watching everything in clips and on TikTok and on that YouTube. They want the highlight. They want the Trae Young half-court shot that he hit the other night prior to playing the Suns, right? Like, they're all seeking that moment. And so they're going to do that, and to their detriment, that's kind of what lost them the game in this one. So I forget what my point was, but LaMelo Ball, ugly dude.
Hi, Barbie.
Oh, hi, Alan.
Oh, Grayson Allen, our fuck shit up guy.
So Grayson Allen was having a fantastic game in this one. He played in the first half of 13 minutes, 4 of 7 from the field, and 3 of 6 from beyond the arc, 13 points off the bench. And mind you, the Suns outscored the Hornets 47-22 off the bench. Left knee soreness is the report. Hope he's okay, because right when we get Royce O'Neal back, he goes out. And we all know that if you can have Royce O'Neal and you can have Grayson Allen, and both of those guys are healthy and locked in on a game, man, you better watch yourself, because they both can really light it up. But it's funny because the Suns, with players like Grayson Allen playing as well as he has been over the past few days, and Bradley Beal making this transition, the Suns, prior to making the move of adding Yusuf Nurkic, which I don't know how much I actually count that, but Bradley Beal to the bench, before that, the Suns were 24th in the league in bench scoring. 24th. Now, since that move, they are fourth in the league. I'm sorry. No, wait. Third in the league in scoring. They're plus 15 points per game in bench scoring since they made that move. Damn, that's impressive. All right, let me look at some of the comments. You guys have been firing off some comments, whether you're watching along live on YouTube or on Twitter or on Facebook or on Twitch. Thanks you for tuning into the Suns Jam Session podcast. Hope you don't mind the one-man show, but let's see what some people are saying over there in the chat. Johnny Carson. All right, Jones in since 80. Can we really include GA in a trade? Yes, I absolutely think we can and we should, if what we're getting back is something that helps the overall roster. And I get it. Like, if Grayson's shooting like shit, it's like, trade him. But, now that he's starting to turn it around, you can't trade Grayson Allen, and I understand that mode of thinking, but at the same time, like, now's the time to strike. Obviously, he's somebody who was the best 3-point shooter in the league a season ago, and he had his challenges for quite some time. You look at his first, let's just say 23 games, and how he was shooting the ball, knowing that he's got those T-Rex arms now, but 37.6% on 5.8 3-point attempts per game. Nothing to be disappointed in. But you look at his last 5 games, not including tonight, he was at 53.3% from beyond the arc. So all of a sudden we're like, oh no, we can't get rid of him. Cannot get rid of him. But at the same time, like, you have Royce O'Neal, and if you have a roster need, which we know the Suns have a roster need, if we have to get rid of Grayson Allen for an interior presence that's going to help the team, it's something you definitely have to contemplate. You definitely have to contemplate that, because holistically, it's going to help the team. Again, on the fringes, but it's going to help the team. And he's one of the few assets we have that are valuable. I still haven't talked about the Nurk trade and the rumors, and I will here in a minute, but like, it's like pulling teeth to get anyone to even consider looking at that guy. And maybe he should have his teeth pulled. Maybe he's got a headache and he's got a toothache. Let's see what else is going on here. Creepy Crawley. John, can you confirm the first Fanning the Flames pod on YouTube live will be a co-stream with Suns Jam? I cannot confirm that but I can definitely deny it. Nobody's asked me. I would love to do a live stream with the Fanning the Flames guys. They've never done a live stream, and it'd be fun. I'd probably have to assist them and teach them how to do it, but I'd be like, you know what? Yeah, I'd love to do that. Those are my homies, man. You guys are all my homies. He goes, where the fook is that Lissy guy? He's sick, just like I was. Tis the season. We got the same thing Nurk has. We're afraid of Mark Williams, and we didn't want to play against him. Let's see. So let's talk a little bit about Nurkic. All right, let's have this conversation.
Nurk. Delicious definition make them boys go crazy.
Oh. All right, so I'm going to go back to what Joel said at the front end of the podcast. He goes, it's insane how a rookie, undersized center is our best option at center. The Suns front office should be embarrassed. Richards needs to happen ASAP. All right. So obviously there's a lot of talk occurring about Yusuf Nurkic being included in trade rumors with potentially the Charlotte Hornets, who we've seen twice in the last week, for their backup center, Nick Richards. And we all know the uphill battle the Phoenix Suns are facing and the baggage they're looking to shed. And Nurkic has become baggage. I mean, there's no two ways about it. He's definitely regressed. I was one of the people who thought that he was a good fit with the team, but as time has progressed, it's clear that he's just not. He has a lot of good qualities, and people really overlook those qualities. And I always remind people of that because it's the same conversation I used to have about DeAndre Ayton. I would be frustrated with Ayton, but I would always recognize what good qualities he had. I'm going to do that with every player, but you have to think holistically about the player, their viability on the market, and what you can get for them, and if they fit with the team. But front and center in that pile of what the Suns are looking to shed is 11th year big Yusuf Nurkic. He hasn't seen the floor in the last 3 games, and it's not because he's nursing some mysterious injury, but because, frankly, he's been played off of the court. Rested for trade preservation, maybe. Or maybe it's just an unspoken acknowledgement of his awkward fit in today's NBA. This isn't the same Nurk who came in talking a big game on Twitter, trading barbs with fans and flexing his confidence. Like, regression has hit this dude hard in his second year with the Suns. And let's be real. People love chirping when they're flying high, but not so much when they're grounded. And I'm not here to roast him. It's a tough spot. The guy would have been a beast if this was 1987. But in 2025, with that $18.1 million contract attached to his name, he's struggling to find a role. But as for the trade market, the Suns aren't exactly finding buyers either. Like, sure, they're willing to move him over the summer and early this season, but now crickets. Why? Because let's face it, there's no long line of teams knocking down the door for him. Moving Nurkic would almost certainly require sweetening the pot with draft capital. And we know that that's something the Suns are in short supply of. What do they have? All right. So they've got 1 first-round pick that's in 2031. We owe our 2025, 2027, 2029 first-round picks to Brooklyn or Houston. We have 2026 and 2028 first-round swaps with the Washington Wizards that we got for Bradley Beal, which means we can't trade those until draft day 2026 and 2028. So there's still assets, just not something you can do right now. We got swaps in 2026 with Orlando, a 2028 swap with Brooklyn. So what do we have in the shed? We got 1 first-round pick and 3 second-round picks. So still, maybe the Suns have just enough juice to grease the wheels to unload Yusuf Nurkic for something that helps the team. But let's not kid ourselves. It's not as easy as just dialing up the trade and sealing the deal. Like, teams don't just swoop in to save franchises unless they're like the Lakers. Like, if you're the Lakers, they're like, all right, we'll help you out. Fucking Adam Silver called, and he said we should do this. So here's a good player and some draft capital. Give us your shit. So Nick Richards is the name. that the Suns have kind of identified. And Mark Stein from the Stein line stated the Suns face similar challenges with suddenly out of favor Yusuf Nurkic, who hasn't merely been moved to the bench like Beal. Nurkic has been outright DNP'd for Phoenix's past 2 games, with Nurkic owed $19.4 million in 25-26, generating a trade market for him to this point would prove scarcely easier than establishing one for Beal. The Suns have 3 tradable second-round picks to try to convince a team like Charlotte to take on Nurkic's contract for a package headlined by demand Hornets big man, in demand Hornets big man, but how Nick Richards. But how many of those picks would it cost them? So Richards, 27-year-old big man, he went for 15 and 12 last time we played him in 25 minutes. $5 million this year, $5 million next year. But the challenge with trying to get him is you can't just trade straight up. You can't go 18.1 for the $5 million. They have to throw another player in there. And that player would have to be somebody who it would either be Grant Williams or Josh Green. So let's talk let's talk Nurkic versus Richards. Now, I'll say this right off the bat. Richards would be much better for the Suns, in my opinion. I'm going to preface everything we say with that. I'm going to pull up some advanced stats, and I know it might be hard to read if you're on the screen. And I know that some people aren't a big fan of advanced stats because they don't necessarily showcase the context of from which they are being produced, like defensive rebounding talent. I mean, that's one thing that Yusuf Nurkic is in the 100th percentile and an A+, whereas Nick Richards is a B+ in the 76th percentile. And you can sit there and go, okay, well, one's a better defensive rebounder, but it's like, okay, you can also take into account that Nick Richards' defensive rebounding might not be as high because he doesn't grab as many defensive rebounds because the teams in which they're playing are playing better due to their poor defense and thus making more shots, right? So, I mean, there's levels to this. But if you just put them side by side, like they're very similar in interior defense. They're very similar in that defensive rebounding. They're very similar in rim protection. They're very similar in screening talent. They're very different in offensive rebounding. Richards significantly outperforms Nurkic because he's in the 99th percentile compared to Nurk's 84th percentile. Overall scoring efficiency, and this is a big one, because although they don't have a great scoring efficiency for either of them, and the percentiles generally ranked relative to their to fellow centers, right? They're not ranking of overall scoring efficiency to LaMelo Ball. But Nurkic is lower. He's 19th percentile. He's an F grade. They're both in F grades. I'm sorry. Nick Richards is 19th percentile. Nurkic's 5th percentile. Playmaking talent, not a big deal. But overall, like my summation when I look at all their statistics is like Yusuf Nurkic is a Swiss Army knife at the center position. Like he's somewhat versatile, really unathletic, maddeningly inefficient. He brings a little bit of everything to the table. Like he's stronger defensive rebounding, a slightly better shooting touch, and kind of offensive flexibility that makes you squint and say there's potential there somewhere. But when it comes to his consistency, it's a different story. Where you have Nick Richards, he's a no-nonsense enforcer who's the embodiment of raw athletic power in the paint. He might not have the same overall toolbox as Nurkic, but what he does with a ferocity that makes the opposition second-guess every rim run. Like, that's what the Suns need. Richards is a menace as a rim protector, an offensive rebounder with relentless tenacity, and a screen setter who gets the job done with surgical precision. If you need someone to control the flow of those high-impact, hard-hat areas, Richards your guy. But again, you need to have another player attached to this deal to make it happen. So you could either go, based on the money, Grant Williams, who's out for the season with an ACL injury, but before that has always been known for bringing a serious edge and a trait that the Suns could definitely use next year when he comes back, like this time next year. He got injured in late November for the Charlotte Hornets, and so he won't be back until about January of next year is my guess, nursing that injury. But he does have attitude. It's something that, we witnessed when he played against Jimmy Butler as a member of the Boston Celtics a couple seasons ago. Got traded to Dallas. They didn't really like him. They sent his ass to Charlotte to facilitate the PJ Washington trade. Or you could go with Josh Green, who we saw tonight. Green didn't play a ton of minutes, but 30 minutes. I just didn't know something on the court. 2.7 rebounds for Josh Green, former U of A alum, by the by. But, he's 6'5", doesn't have a bunch of size, but he's stocky. And, the upside with him is he's healthy, unlike Williams. Both of them are on contracts until 2027. So this season and then 2 more seasons. So you trade out of Nurkic, who you just have for this season, next season, you'd probably have to attach some picks to it because that's what Charlotte wants. They don't want Nurkic. They want your picks, right? And you'd get back Nick Richards and either Grant Williams or Josh Green. So that's kind of the scenario. Now, there's also another scenario where you just you give him Josh Okogie, who's on this year and next year. So very similar deal to Yusuf Nurkic, but a lot less money. And you just do that for Richards straight up because he $5 million for Richards, $8 million and some change for Josh Okogie plus the picks. So my question is, do you do it? And in my opinion, yeah. And I say go get Grant Williams. Like, fuck Grant Williams, but I'd rather he's a fuck shit up guy, like in every sense of the word. So like, why not bring him in knowing that you're not going to he's not going to affect the roster right now, not till next year. And then that'll give you options next year. But to get Nick Richards, I think that's valuable. I think that he's somebody who could definitely have an impact on this team. He has his deficiencies as well. Have no doubt about it. I was in the subreddit stakeout for the Charlotte Hornets, and they're not a big Nick Richards fan because he's not a great. There's a reason why he gets paid $5 million a year. We have to accept that as well. But I think we go back to that word. The word we had for Yusuf Nurkic at the front end of last year that faded as the year progressed, has completely gone up in smoke this year. And that word is fit. And I feel like Nick Richards fits better because he gives you 3 different archetypes at the center position. You have him who, as I mentioned, is somebody who's, on the interior. He's the enforcer, right? He's raw, athletic power in the paint, hard hat area guy. Then you'd have Mason Plumlee, a little bit more technical, a little bit more better with the ball, really shitty scoring. And then you have the skill guy, undersized, but Oso Ighodaro. And I think if you have those 3 centers, it's on the fringes of your roster, but it allows you options to attack the opposing team or adjust the opposing team as you see fit. And I think that's important because Nurkic / Plumlee hasn't been great. Nurkic has fallen off, and I think everybody's just ready for a change. And it'll also put us a step away from DA, and I'd be okay with that. All right, let's subreddit stake out this bitch.
The Suns Jam Session subreddit stakeout.
Where is she? She was in Charlotte tonight, so I had to go there to make sure that she was okay, because those horny Hornet fans, well, they're horny. Here's some of the things that they had to say about tonight's game. This jersey and court should be the full-time look for the Suns.
The City Edition jerseys have definitely grown on me. I still don't like that they say "the" on them. If it just said Valley in that old West font, man, like, my heart. And I love the center court. Like, that is my favorite court that I've seen in quite some time. Definitely.
Wish we could play against Plumlee's defense every night.
And then there was a play where they're like,
Plumlee just tackled Richards and no call.
To which somebody responded,
they're trying to injure Richards so they can buy damaged goods at a discount. Outside of Kevin Durant, this Phoenix team just sucks so bad. Does Booker have the most punchable face in the league? He's at least top 5.
And somebody responded,
not even number 1 on his team with Grayson Allen there.
That's some good shit. Blaze Megatron real quick. Nah, it's nice, but OG Valley jersey for the win. Yeah, I mean, that's like, man, I could do a whole podcast. That'll be a summertime podcast, like ranking Suns jerseys, because Matthew and I started this podcast 5 years ago, and we've had so many jersey iterations since, and I know that was one of our early podcasts. I guarantee you it was ranking Suns jerseys. So, yeah, we'll be able to do that.
Josh Green, start packing. I hope he starts unpacking and just stays in Phoenix. So obviously Josh Green going for 2-7 wasn't something that they liked. Somebody who they'd be okay to part with. Wait, I've been voting for Melo this whole time on NBA website, and I could have been doing it through the app, and I'm missing out on a chance on a signed jersey. I just thought that was funny. It's like there's a promotion I guess they're doing, like vote for Melo for the All-Star game, get an enter into a free jersey, and some guy's like, oh, this is bullshit. Maybe if Phoenix's coach didn't use all the challenge buying money on his fake tan and toupee. It's probably the best comment of the night. And then another, the final comment, which is something I feel like we always talk about, and it's nice to hear this through the lens of another opposing team. Last 2 minutes, Suns offense, pass, 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 open three. Our offense, Melo or Brandon ISO. See, we're not the only team that suffers from that mindset.
The Suns Jam Session subreddit stakeout.
All right, Jamsters, let's do some Jamstar before we get out of here this fine evening. I gotta look at the schedule. Shit, I don't even know who the fuck we play next.
Jam Star of the Game.
Reminder, subscribe, rate, and review wherever you happen to be consuming this podcast. If it happens to be through the audio channels, please give us a 5-star review. If you're on Apple, click 5 stars and give us a review. I'm going to check right now in real time if we've had any new podcast reviews for the Suns Jam Session podcast. It's been quite some time last I checked. Let's scroll down here. And no, it's been since October. October was our last 5-star review. We're at 4.8 stars out of 5, though. So that's nice. 136 ratings. Not bad for a pod that's been around half a fucking decade now. But let me know in the chat also who your jam star of the game is. In fact, I'm going to start reading them out because I haven't even thought about it. Like, I want to give it to Booker because of his 30 points. I want to give it to KD because of his 27 and it was a little bit more efficient. And I really like what he did in the fourth quarter. I even talk about Bradley Beal's 15 points on 5 of 12 shooting. And I know it's just 15 points, but I felt like he was very effective coming off the bench. So let's see what the Jam Stars are saying. Let's pop in here. Suns Fever 83, Jam Star tonight, Book. David Ray says KD is the Jam Star with Booker a close second. Keith Nettles, Book, but still not buying all in. Yeah, I'm with you right there. Enjoy these victories, but I think all of us Suns fans are a little standoffish right now. We're beating teams we should beat. We're heading the right direction. We're winning games, all right? We're 500. And one thing to really consider is the fact that at 500, we are now the 10th seed in the Western Conference, and we are 4 games out of the 4 seed. Let that sink in. We're the 10th seed. We are 13 games back of the Oklahoma City Thunder. But we're only 4 games back of the Denver Nuggets, who are the 4 seed. So you make a run right here. You win these games you're supposed to, hopefully developing chemistry and setting some foundational aspects of your game that you can capitalize moving forward. And potentially we can start believing again. But I'm with you, Keith. I'm not there yet. Let's see. Jamstar is not Plumlee from Eddie Yee. And David Reyes, he says, strike that, reverse it. Booker with the Jamstar. KD is the close second. Mark N says, KD for Jamstar. The pass to Oso Dunk was great and helped secure the game. Completely agree. Saul gives it to Jamstar. That's going to be Big Dick Booker. KD from Roaring Cactus. Oso from Creepy Crawley. Sage from So Says Jay, who refuses to tell us where he's hidden that sage at Footprint Center. But you know what? The Suns are now 3-0 since he planted some sage there on Brightside Night. Oso or KD from Roaring Cactus. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to go with KD on this one. I think so. Especially that fourth quarter. Fourth quarter to KD really helped. Taking a look at what's up next for the Phoenix Suns. They are playing on Tuesday, 5:30 against the Atlanta Hawks. We're on a road trip. We got a 5-game roadie up ahead of us. Tuesday against the Atlanta Hawks. Thursday at Washington. Saturday at Detroit. Monday at Cleveland. Wednesday at Brooklyn. So that 5-game road trip. You have Cleveland. That's going to be a tough game. I think they lost to the Pacers tonight. But you also have some beatable competition in there. So you got to keep this thing rolling. And that's what we're hoping for the Phoenix Suns. So again, a win for Phoenix, 19-19 on the season. Hopefully making that next step that we're just waiting for this team to make. Win the games you're supposed to, ladies and jamsters. Win the games you're supposed to. All right, that's it for the pod. Appreciate everyone who wanted to spend a little time with me. Hope I didn't let you down. Make sure you subscribe, rate, review, or don't. Whatever. I'm tired. Time to go to bed. Time to go home. Love my family. Hope you do the same.